Well, Brian, there's a familiar name, Logan Naidu. Well,
I see that.
Hi, Logan. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
You just can unmute yourself, Derek, on the left bottom, because Brian would love to say hello to you. Left
Brian, sorry, I
bottom.
thought my mic was on. Hello to you.
No problem. I read your lips, Logan. I just, I was playing the lead here.
Okay. And
Good to see you again, my friend. How have you been?
So good to see you, Brian. Really. Yeah.
Hey, Derek, how are you? You are, you're muted, unfortunately. Just hit the space bar.
Yes.
You're
If
still
you can
muted.
hear us, just hit the space bar, Derek, either the space bar or left
There
bottom,
you go,
the
Derek.
little mute. Oh, it's another problem.
I see Naji. Hi, Naji. Welcome.
There's the man.
How are you? Naji,
hey,
thank you.
how are you? How are you? 1 second, 1 second.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So Logan, are you joining the meeting from India?
Yeah, I'm actually in India. It's what's the time now? 7:30 p.m.
Thank you to be with us. Yeah.
No, what? Gee, I'm not going to miss this. Absolutely not.
Kevin, how are you? Kobis, my brother, I miss you. Big boss Brian, we miss you. Michael, how are you? Logan, great. Long time, Logan.
Yes, Naji. So good to see you, Naji.
So good to see you, man. Yeah. I think we met last time in maybe 6 years in annual meeting. Yeah, and you gave me your book.
Okay. All right.
Derek, how are you? Flora and all the team.
Hi, Naji.
Hi, Flora. How are you?
Good, and you?
Hello, Naji. Nice to see you, my brother from Lebanon.
Brother, I miss you so much. How are you? How's the family? Good?
Very good now. All good.
Yeah. Thank God.
Right. I see that we have more people joining as it goes along. And so Flora, if I may just ask you to monitor if anyone joins, if you can just admit them. We have about over 60 people that registered for the events. So I'm sure that there will be people that continue to streaming and to join, but also to let you know that if the technology doesn't fail me, I'm still learning that we should be live stream at the moment on YouTube as well. So welcome everyone for joining this MDRT South Africa meeting, and it's a really privilege and honor to have all of you here. And just to explain to you, all of you, and I see Christian, one of the new members, welcome. Yeah, so to all the members and also the friends of MDRT that are on in this meeting, welcome. I think that a month or two ago, when the local MCC, we were talking about hosting, having a meeting, and we were thinking about the topics, and then Subhash was suggesting, what about we have some international speakers? And that kind of prompted me into action. And I was reaching out to Mofia and reaching out to other country chairs in my zone. And then someone mentioned about why not speak to Kubus, and I reached out to Kubus, and then Kubus assisted. And then very quickly I got very top people from MDRT to agree to join this meeting and to speak. So we're very honored to have Brian and Michael and Naji to speak to us on the topics we are going to speak about today. And we focus on three things. The first is MDRT benefits, which Naji is going to talk about. And Naji is the current region chair. We met last year in Chicago at the leadership meeting, and he's really passionate and motivating. When I was not quite sure what to do, and he really pulled me and gave me good ideas. So I just want to first maybe just share about this quick slides, just in terms of some house rules, so that we can observe some protocols. Yeah, okay. So I just want to go into this. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So first of all, just some house rules, just in terms of this meeting, the engagement. First of all, as we are here and we have the opportunity and also have those international speakers, it's really precious. Let's invest this time together. So if you can just ask everyone, if you can just switch off your cell phone and don't just mute them, so that you are not interrupted. Let's just be fully immersed in this session, and then to listen and then to get a message, to get the best of this time. Second is to mute your mic unless it's the speakers of the day. Otherwise, please just mute your mic so we are not disrupted. Number three is that if you have any, please welcome to interact in the chat. So that we can monitor and we can just interact with each other. And number four is that to ask questions in the chat. If you are listening about the various topics, if you have any questions at any point in time, please just post your questions. We have people that monitor the questions in the chat, and we are going to respond to any questions you may have, and we'll post them to the speakers. And then take notes. I know that in front of the screen and watching the proceedings and taking note at the same time sometimes can be challenging, but take your own notes. What you found valuable, please just make such notes. And then lastly, just enjoy the session. It's really special, and thanks to the technology that we're able to connect people all the way from Lebanon, from the United States, from India, and even like the rest of Africa, South Africa. We are here in one place to be together, even though we are geographically apart, but we're here thanks to the technology. All right, so that's that. And just quickly in the next slide, just in terms of speakers, very quick introduction so that you know that the speakers today. The first is Naji, he's from Lebanon. He's a financial planner. He's Legacy Borders founder and CEO, and he's the current MDRT region chair, Middle East, Africa, South Africa, 2021 to 23. Bliss founder, Life Happens Middle East ambassador, and Gamma international ambassador. Brian Hackett, well known in the MDRT and also in the financial planning circle. He's CLU, so many titles here. He's a founder and wealth manager at FSM Wealth, Illinois, United States. He's past president of MDRT, the 90th president of the MDRT, and he's a public speaker. And we also have Michael Hackett. He's an advisor at FSM Wealth, expert in project management and practice management. So we can't wait to hear what they have to say. So let me just stop sharing these slides. And I would first like to ask Naji, if you can just speak on MDRT benefits. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. And as Brian said, thank you all MDRT. You are MDRT. I am MDRT. All together, we are MDRT. And talking about the benefits of MDRT, let me tell you a story that happened to me. In 2006, I heard about an association. They told me every year they meet all the people, top producers from all around the world. they gathered together in America or in Canada, and they shared ideas. So I told them, okay, let's go. They told me, no, Nash, you cannot go. There isn't some qualification to reach this qualification, so you can qualify to be a member. But they told me this year there is an MDRT meeting, MDRT experience, and it was in 2006, the first MDRT experience in Thailand. So I still remember, I went to the bank, I took a loan, from Standard Chartered Bank. At that time, they used to have a branch in Lebanon. I booked a ticket, I reserved hotel, I went to MDRT Thailand. Some of my friends in Lebanon, they were telling me, Naji, why you like to spend your money? You're going all the way to attend a meeting, everything in English, and you don't know nothing about English. Why are you going to spend your money? I still remember I told them, I'm going to take the energy, the experience. And some of my friends here in Lebanon, they told me, don't worry, Naji, we will explain everything for you. And this is what I learned, that it's always who you surround yourself. It's most important. We are the average of the 5 people around us. We went, I saw this association, and it was the turning point in my life. And I told myself, once MDRT, always MDRT. And it took me 1.5 years working to reach the first MDRT in 2008. And from that time, I didn't miss any MDRT. MDRT, it's not only about qualifying and attending the meeting. And to be honest with you, I didn't miss any meeting from 2008. Annual meeting, global meeting, MDRT days. If I heard someone is doing MDRT day in Dubai, I go and I pay and I attend. Budapest, I go and attend. Greece, Cyprus, everywhere. And I start volunteering. And this is what teach me a lot. It's about volunteering in MDRT, and I start growing, using all the materials that MDRT have it. And this is easy, Kevin. Anyone can go to the MDRT website. This is so easy. Click MDRT website, and you will find all the materials that you can use it. From article, books, videos, study group, information, blogs, social media, everything, magazine, that every month we receive this magazine. But the MDRT, Kevin, and sorry, I know that you want me to talk about MDRT and the benefits, but I want to talk about being in and surrounding yourself with the MDRT people. And this will not happen if you're not traveling there. I still remember I was in MDRT event in Budapest with our president, Brian Hackett. After we finished the dinner, after a long day, he told me, Naji, do you feel sleepy? I told him, no. I said, okay, let's go to the hotel. You remember Brian? And thank you, Brian, for this lovely night. What I learned from you this night, I learned from you that we need to start working on the business, not in the business. It's totally different. Why life insurance agents, sometimes they struggle every year to get their numbers? Because sometimes we stick in the business, not working on the business as a business people and as a profession. And from that day, I start working on myself, reading more books, attending seminars, thinking, see where I can work as a profession, not as an agent that he needs to sell more and make more commission. And to be honest, because I was volunteering in MDRT, and this is also happened when Brian, he was the president. I was lucky enough because I was so active, volunteering, working day and night in MDRT, whenever I have in any meeting, they choose us 16 people to read the book study group. Study group about, and I still have this group here. Let me show to all of you. And this study group changed my life, the way of thinking. John Maxwell group. You remember Brian? They chose us 16 people who were volunteering in MDRT to read this book, The 5 Levels of Leadership. And we were meeting every month. And we were discussing every chapter. So let's say I read a chapter and I took some ideas. I take some ideas from Logan. I take some ideas from Derek, for example, Michael. And Brian, he was joining us to give us a summary, how we need to think as leadership. Maybe MDRT did this because they see in ourselves, they need to invest in us to be a better leader. But I can tell you, this helped me a lot in my family, in my business, in my personal life, how to talk, to communicate, and how to think as a leader and a better person. MDRT, I urge every single life insurance agent, managers, don't miss being in MDRT, don't miss it. You're missing a lot. You're missing a lot. Be there. This is the place where you can learn, earn, and grow. And this is the place that you learn not how to be a better producer, a better income-making machine, not at all. This is the place where we learn how to be a better person, a better human being, a person that he leave a good legacy behind. Because, and I think Logan, he agree with me, we are coming to this life one time. I still remember one speaker, we were discussing in the lobby, drinking wine, and he told me, look, Naji, I want to give you one advice. Everyone on earth, they passed away 2 times. Try in your life to pass away 1 time. I told him, excuse me, what you mean? What does it mean? He told me, every one of us will pass away one day, will die. 90% to 95% of the people, they die again when people they lost and they forget about their name. Make sure to live your life and leave a good legacy that will stay some time. So my advice to all of you, our friends, our colleagues, our fellow members, an agent, managers, this is the place where we should all together be and benefits from MDRT, this lovely association that put people together, connect people together, give information to everyone, and at the same time give the inspiration. This family, it's become my second family. That always, whenever, when the blast happened in Beirut, the big explosion happened in Beirut, I can't tell you how many messages, calls, emails, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, social media, people they care, and they were calling me, Naji, tell me what you need. Tell me how we can support your country. And this is what we do whenever any other country happened to them. This is the MDRT family. And this is the only association in the world that they talk about the whole person concept. Thank you, Kevin, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you for always putting this family together. God bless you and God bless MDRT. Thank you.
Thanks, Naji, for that powerful message and sharing your experience. And one thing that really touched me about the study group, because like Gubis, before this meeting, he was mentioning about, and then Brian mentioning about the study group. And I think that certainly is something that we would like to maybe establish in South Africa, where we can bring people together and study group and actually get ideas and interactions. And I think that's something that that really touched me here. And thanks for sharing that. So how long has this study group been going for?
Till we finish the book. The book, maybe 7-8 chapter. Let me bring the book.
Okay.
I think
all
we
right.
started that in 2016, Kevin.
Okay, so that's yeah. Yeah, okay. No, that's excellent.
Maybe we stayed less than 1 year.
Mm.
But I tell you, this took me to another level in my thought, at least, in my thinking, in my information, at least.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned about, taking from being in the business to being working on the business, that's another powerful message, because I think that if I look at myself, I'm continue to work in my business. I continue to work on my business, but it seems like I still need to really make that jump. So that's thanks for that. I just wonder. Okay, so we'll continue to monitor the chat, but I think because of time, I'd like to start the next session on practice management. I'd like to welcome Michael Heckert for this session. And he's been instrumental at FSM Wealth in terms of the certain organizational development and changes at FSM. I specifically asked him to maybe just focus on recruiting, hiring staff, and onboarding staff and managing staff. So Michael, thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, thank you very much. Happy to be here with all of you and talk a little bit about practice management. Kevin and I were talking a little bit before the call really got going, when it was just he and I on the Zoom today, and talked a little bit about my background and why some of my previous experiences have kind of worked out well in our firm's growth, and how we've kind of used some of those experiences for hiring and working with staff and new advisors. And so what I shared with Kevin was that I was actually a civil engineer in my previous career. That's what I went to school for, and did that for several years, managing projects. But one of the most important things I learned from that profession was how to work with people. And that's worked really well and translated very well into my career with Brian, and some of you know my brother Brandon in our firm, and how we all work together and how we work with our staff and some of our other advisors. So from a recruiting standpoint, I know that's one of the things we wanted to focus on, Kevin. I think you had sent the question that what do we use for recruiting purposes? Where do we go to look for new talent for agents, advisors, and also staff? So for the longest time, we were in, our primary office was in a very small town in the middle of the United States. And so Brian, when he was looking for new recruits, he would just talk to the people that he knew. And so being in a small town, you know everybody, you know the background. He watched a lot of the people that are currently still employed by the firm. He watched a lot of them grow up. So that was a pretty easy background check. Didn't need to go too deep into that. So he knew a lot of the experiences and a lot of the families that these people came from. But as we started to grow and open up new locations in different areas of the United States, we couldn't rely on that background anymore that we knew from those families. So We've been successful in using LinkedIn. That was one of the ones that has been very successful, but which is still kind of the same idea. It's still the way LinkedIn works is, you know, people because they know people. So you get these connections, these mutual connections, and you can kind of rely on those mutual connections to find people that you think might work. But what we found, regardless of whether it was a small town referral or a LinkedIn referral, is we look at the person as we hire the personality, not their skills. And so it could be that someone has a nice background, has a lot of letters after their name for their different designations. But if they sit down in an interview or on a phone call and the personality isn't a good fit, then that's going to be a lot harder to work with, because you can teach the skills over time, but a personality is not something that you can necessarily teach. Brian, any follow-up on that comment?
Yeah, I think that's important for everybody here. You know, we've had some great examples of people that never knew when we first started communicating that they were going to be employed at the firm. And part of that's our mindset. I think when I first started to hire, I thought I had to hire somebody with a finance degree, somebody with, you know, credentials. I myself never went to college. So I thought there always had to be a degree behind their name. But the most important people in our organization today are people that have come from wide varieties of background, and we create an environment where they find their best them. And I think that's the most important thing that Michael has shared.
Yeah, thank you. And so a couple of different examples. We've got staff and personnel employed today. One person is from the medical field. She was a nurse before, so she was used to the high stress, quick response type environment. And while the environment has changed, she was able to adapt that very well to dealing with any kind of client issues or call-ins that happen. So it's different skill sets. If you are considering the skills, because first with her, we knew the personality was going to work, but it's, as Brian said, it's not just finance skills that are important and translatable. We've got another individual that works for the firm who was a music major. And so now we kind of say that he orchestrates our firm. You know, he's the one who kind of directs everybody, lets everyone know that what they need to be doing and when. So a lot of those other professions have skills that are translatable. Mine, on the advisor side of things, I still tell people that instead of being a civil engineer, I'm not building buildings anymore like I did in my last profession, but I still have a foundation. I still have a budget. I still have a schedule. So a lot of those things are still the same. So I'm still building something, but instead of building a building, I'm building a client's plan. So it's translatable. So I'm still an engineer. I'm just a financial engineer now instead of a civil engineer. And so just focusing on skills alone and how a finance major or just relatable skills, I think you're excluding a good group of people that could potentially be a good fit. But we focus first on the personality, and if that works out well, then anything else can be made to work. There's a lot of other translatable skills.
Michael, I want to come in here just to ask you about personalities, because there are different types of personality tests. They are like a Briggs-Meyer and 16 personality that I use in my company when interviewing or recruiting people. There's also, like, I think that a few years ago when I learned from the MDRT, the magazine, there's like a four like animal types like lion and otter and all that. And so when you talk about personality, are you looking for a person where you look at these kind of personality test results? Is an extrovert, introvert? Is a person maybe more sensitive or like maybe more objective? That kind of so what kind of the traits are you picking up when you're talking about personality types?
Yeah, great question. So we've actually used a couple of those different tests in our past. There was a point that Brian used one of them for one of the onboarding or just as a part of the interview process. But what we found is, depending on who's working with who. So I might not work with every staff member that we've got, but it's good to have a mixture of the personality scores, or if you're doing those tests, because the opposites kind of balance each other out. We actually did one a few years ago where everybody in the firm took one, and we found that all of the people that Brian had hired were the opposite style as he was, because they needed to offset, where his strengths were. They didn't need to pick up on that. So, Brian's outgoing and has, certain problem solving, where some of the people that were working with him were able to kind of just take his lead and follow up and do the tasks and the other things. So I don't know that there's one single answer for what personality you need to look for, but it's just one that complements your own and you can work well with. So, I highly recommend, if you haven't done one of those, and there's, as you mentioned, Kevin, there's a lot of those different personality tests out there that you can do, but it's a good exercise to go through that with your staff and kind of see where everyone's at, because it helps you identify strengths. And as Brian said before, you want everyone to be at their highest and best use. And so that allows you to see what strengths they have, and you can really play on that. And then you can look at your entire firm and say, okay, where are we falling short? What area of personalities or styles are we falling short? And you can kind of use that to help fill the gaps.
I think, Michael, just one quick note on that, and it ties to Najee's mention of the 5 levels of leadership. The most important one to take the test is us. Know yourself first, and then the others, as you hire them, you'll know if they're a fit for working with you. That's the best part of the testing, is know who you are so that you can then know others.
Yeah, and in learning that, Najee, I was going to bring that up actually, Brian. We have inside of our firm, we've actually done a study group for the 5 levels of leadership. And so we as a firm got together on a regular basis to review the chapters, just as you did. And it helped everybody look inward, as Brian just said, and kind of figure out where your strengths are, because it is hard to try to bring on new people if you don't know exactly what you're looking for yourself, or what gaps you need filled.
That's excellent. Thank you. Because I think that recently I have a staff that's resigned, and she wrote an honest exit interview. I thought that was maybe a mirror of me, and caused me to reflect on myself. So I think that what you said about looking inward and knowing yourself, I think is certainly a very good starting point. And what kind of questions would you ask in the interview? Do you always do the interview face-to-face, or how would you, like if you do an interview over a call, if you don't see the person, the body language, how do you know that person is going to actually work out in your practice?
I don't know that we've ever done one just off of a call. Well, I know we've had calls as part of the process before, but as you kind of were, I think, going towards, Kevin, it is important to be able to see the reaction, see who you're talking to. So while we've had some new opportunities come up as phone calls, maybe in the beginning, at some point we meet them in person or on Zoom. We actually had a couple of different hires during the pandemic where we weren't able to meet them in person. We did just do a Zoom, and those worked out well. But even if it is a phone call, I think at some point it is important to see the person and see who you're working with, and because there are certain things that you can kind of pick up on just from seeing the person, and like I said, their reaction, their body language. How they work with you is how they're going to work with your clients as well. So you want to make sure that those things are a good fit for how you work.
And FSM Wealth today, do you have offices in various locations, or is it just one location?
We do. We have 4 locations throughout the U.S. And so we have one in Illinois, Kentucky, Wisconsin, and Idaho. And so we have 4 different locations, and at any point, the advisors from one location might be working in tandem with advisors from another location or staff from another location. So we were early adopters of the Zoom technology. And so we've kind of used that to be able to work together across all of our different locations.
And do you have like a team leader or maybe an office manager for each location?
Yes, great question again. So what we have done is we have, over the past couple of years, we've started building what we call diamond teams. And for those familiar with baseball, that's the terminology we use. But in baseball, you've got your diamond, your 4 bases, where you got your home plate, first base, second base, and third base. And at the second base, or at the head of the diamond, not necessarily that person's in charge, but they're the one who can see the whole field, just like the catcher can see the whole field. And that second base position is usually the lead advisor for a group of relationships or clients. At that point, they also have either a first or a second base associate advisor. So that's where at various levels of experience, we have another advisor on that will attend the meetings with that second base advisor or the lead advisor, and they'll take the notes and make sure the follow-up's all done. Because as many of you know, it's hard to have a conversation and come up with the ideas while you're taking notes, and notes are more and more important everywhere now, and making sure you're doing your follow-up. And then there's a staff person as the catcher, and that may be the most important part of the diamond, because that is the implementer. That's the person who's keeping everything going, just like in baseball. That person is kind of running the whole diamond. So that's the idea behind the diamond teams. We actually worked with a company called Herbers and Company, run by Angie Herbers, to develop that and help kind of make sure our firm was fitting into that. So that's one of the things that we do during recruiting, is we know going into it which position in that diamond that we're looking to fill. And so there's a clear set expectation for what the roles are for that person if we're looking for someone.
Right. So it sounds like, do you use an external HR consulting firm to assist you in profiling the role and the personality and in terms of your recruitment process?
Yes, yeah, that Herbers and Company was very instrumental in developing that whole thing. Now, they wouldn't sit in on the interviews or anything like that, but when it comes to defining the role, they were very instrumental in helping us develop that.
Right. And once you have recruited the new staff, and just now you mentioned about some staff from a completely different field, like nurse and music director, etc. How do you onboard the new recruits when someone who hasn't got the prior knowledge of the finance and financial planning, and now how do they? What kind of a program do they go through? Is it like 1 month program? Is it like 6 months program to get them to be on board? Because I think one of the challenge I have is that the new recruits I have, they seem to be put under like a tremendous pressure as an independent financial advisor practice. They have to learn quite a lot of different things to the point where they struggle after 3 months. So how do you go about onboarding new recruits?
Yeah, we've tried a lot of different things and had a few different methods that we've used over the years to onboard. And we think it's very important in that diamond structure that the lead advisor, any kind of new advisor, new agent that's coming on, that's going to be in that first or third base position, is with you on all your meetings, because this is someone who you're investing time and money in to train. And so it is in your best interest to make sure that they are ready. Like you said, it's very high pressure. And when Brian got into the business, and when many of you got into the business, it was very high pressure, and you're thrown right in, and it's just go, go, go. And you didn't really get the ability to kind of learn from somebody while you're doing it. So that's what we've been implemented. Again, that the HR company, Herbers and Company, that we've used helped us define that process as well. And so each meeting that we're on, there is an associate advisor who is new. So if they came from a different profession, that's one of the things that was very helpful for me, is I got to sit in on meetings with Brandon, my brother, with Brian, with Leo in our office, and take the time to develop my own style before I went out on my own and was running my own meetings. We don't have a set deadline for when that's happened. That's adjusted over time as well, because with different personalities, different people become ready at different times. So we have a lot of freedom with our new hires for as soon as they're ready to take flight, then they're able to do that. But usually we try to get them going in the first 6 months to a year in that process. And then eventually over time, because they'll still be in that diamond situation, but they might take on more responsibility after that time. And then eventually the goal is that they will become self-sufficient and be able to start their own diamond. And then we start building out the team on their diamond as well.
Thanks, Michael. I think that the concept of baseball may be more foreign to a lot of the people here in Africa or South Africa, because we talk about rugby and soccer or football. But yeah,
I was going to try to come up with something a little bit more relatable, but I didn't know how to do that because that's the analogy that we use.
Oh, that's a great analogy. I think it will trigger all of us to find out more about baseball and when you talk about a diamond team, you know what it means, and then maybe then we can see how we can implement in our own way of or our language. So that's great. I just like to. When I monitor the chat, I don't seem to have any comment or question about this practice management. I wonder whether anyone in this meeting has any questions to our speakers. I see that Kubus, you have your hand up. Please unmute.
Yes. Michael, I'm very interested to hear from you and Brian on incentivizing your staff, both office staff and other staff. Do you have a profit sharing scheme or incentive scheme to make your staff loyal to you and to incentivize them to be efficient?
Yeah, Brian, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so in the structure, advisors, myself, Michael, we're all on a base salary. And we are set up very similar to like an accountancy firm or a law firm, in that everybody has a base salary. And unlike when me and Derek and Logan and probably Mokadi started, we started on commissions, and you ate what you killed is the old expression. And too many times we had to buy a policy just to keep ourselves going. But what we do is everybody's on a base salary, and then advisors have a revenue sharing agreement in which they share in a percentage of that upfront and recurring revenue. So the firm takes the majority of the share, and then the advisors take a split on that. Our advisors don't prospect for their first year or two at all. And what that does is, by taking the notes, by doing all the other things in that diamond structure, the lead advisor is the revenue generator and the lead generator. It frees up that much more time that they can do it. So base salary, depending on, we have 9 levels for advisors where they can see a guide path to move up to become a full partner. Staff has the same. Staff has a clear guide path in each one of their channels. Not only do they sit in the catcher's position in the diamond, but they have internal structure, whether it's trading, whether it's client service or whatever. And then the incentive, they have a set salary, and then the bonus structure is tied to their position. And then that's the first level. Everybody shares in the firm level. And then there's always room and a very generous bonus tied to individual performance. Very structured.
That's excellent, Brian. That really answers the question, because I was looking at some of those options as well. So thank you very much for that. That's perfect.
Mokadi?
Yes.
I just wanted to say, having been to MDRT many times, one has noted that many of the guys who are successful, they come from such diverse backgrounds. I remember there's one who used to milk cattle, cows. You come to Medi, who's got a master's in physics. You come to some of the guys who have not been exposed to a lot of education. I always say to new recruits, this job, you must have a big heart to be successful in this job. Number 2, you must have also a very big liver for guts. you must also have a big brain for thinking, long legs for walking. This is one of the most complete jobs you can ever do. And I always like adding that maybe we should weigh them instead of test them. That's MDRT exposes us to all these type of things, But what I've seen as a key factor is that people must have a desire to win. I mean, your son has been an engineer. I was also a systems engineer, right, at IBM. And I switched, and I could have many times have thrown in the head, but the desire to win keeps us going. So what we should do, we must encourage guys that whatever you do, do not sink. It's like in boxing. If you let your guards down, they beat you. Are you with me? So with this job, we just have to keep on encouraged. And one of the things that I found to be encouraging is when we go to MDRT, every time we come there renewed and inspired, That's my comment.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Right. Okay, Mr. Mokadi, thank you for joining the meeting. And I think that definitely I want to invite you to our next meeting to be the speaker, to tap into your experience and the knowledge. But right now, because of time, let's move on to the next segment we're going to go into succession planning. And that's something that's also very, very dear to many advisors' hearts, because as I look at our membership, many of the advisors, they are maybe at the stage where they're considering or already looking at in the process of succession planning. So I'd like to hand over to Brian to speak on succession planning. Brian has been on this journey for some time, and maybe I would like to ask some leading questions, Brian. First of all, when did you start your succession planning, and at that time, what was on your mind?
Well, you learn not only from successful people, but you learn from unsuccessful situations. And I observed the person who brought me into the profession in 1985 built an organization that did not take into account, and it actually was somewhat threatening to any kind of succession planning. He wanted to own it, and then he would give away and then take back and give away and take back. So I witnessed this my first 10 years in business, where other advisors who were building their own practices built enough that they moved away from him. I was the last advisor left with him, and then he burned that relationship. So that happened when I was probably 40, and it was ingrained in my head that I never wanted that to happen. So there's a great book out by an MDRT member by the name of Don White, start with the end in mind. So as I started my journey on the executive committee in 2011, when I got the phone call, I was building an office that would create an environment that I could fill the rooms with successful people. So I started the process with a vision statement in probably 2001, 2002, when I split away from that other advisor. And I slowly, because I was just one person, the first thing I had to do was build an organization that I could recruit into. So in about 2002, 2003, 2004, I made a transition in the United States from I could take less upfront commission and tie that into more of a trail, not only with the insurance products, but as we built our wealth management practice. And I thought I had to do it all at once, but I was able to transition that income stream that allowed me to build a recurring revenue that allowed me to hire into the firm. So that succession started, when I was about 40, about 20 years ago. For people that are looking to do the math, I'll be 60 this year. And it also started when I started to notice the traits of the children. And while Michael and Brandon have very dissimilar personalities and career paths. They both complement each other, which was also something that was very important as I built it. But before they showed up, I hired a gentleman who came to me when he was 21. He was working on his master's or his MBA, and that happened in about 2007 was when I made that first step to actually bring on somebody with partner material.
Okay, so that when the next question I have here is that who are your succession planning? So initially you didn't have your sons as a part of your succession planning, but it's just that things just over the years worked out. Now they are your succession planning?
Yeah, so Michael and Brandon and Leo are all three partners in the firm, and every employee has the ability to be a partner in this firm. And not necessarily just from an advisor standpoint. So if you think about a law firm, they have people that run the different divisions. I think that's one of the keys in how well this organization has grown, is that each one of the partners have different roles towards a common goal. There was a trucking company in town that had 6 children or in-laws working in the business, and it's something he did, and he didn't even quantify it, but I observed it from the outside, was he created not only logistics, but somebody had to run payroll, somebody had to run warehousing. And inside of one company, there was 6 different divisions that each one of the kids run and were rewarded for individually, but it kept them from stepping on each other as well. So Michael has a focus in the retirement plan field. Brandon is risk and planning. Leo is investment. I'm overall management, marketing, and everything else that falls into it. So I think the key to a succession plan, just like you don't want to hire personalities that can compete against each other, they complement each other. You want to create environments, even if there's only one person, create an environment where that next generation can flourish instead of always being in the shadow. And I've seen so many firms, we've acquired firms. We've grown rapidly through our acquisition strategy. In fact, we just completed our 15th one this week. And each one of those, what I've seen, the wrong thing to do is create an environment where your only transition is your ability to sell. The ability to sell is the hardest part to transfer. The ability to actually run a business and have a business strategy, just like the big corporations, that's the most important thing that I hear. So succession planning can happen with anybody in the firm. And 2, create an environment where there's something to transition other than a handshake and just having the ability to sell a product.
And in terms of, you mentioned about partners in your business, do they actually have a stake in the business, actually have a share in the business, being a shareholders, that they take risks, but also they will be rewarded through the profits of the business?
Absolutely. Michael and Brandon and Leo all bought into the firm, and we worked out a formula. Again, so where I've seen the mistakes happen is that you bring somebody in, frees up the time for you to focus on your business. You grow the business from, let's say, 500,000 revenue to $1 million of revenue because you brought that other person in. And then you expect that new person to buy their hard labor. And we created an environment where we created the structure on the buyout so that they bought in at almost their entry level and got the discount on that purchase price on the fruits of what they put into it. Both Leo and Brandon and Michael, each one of them had different entry points. And I think that's also important. And what I found is, since I sold to Leo almost 10 years ago, Michael and Brandon 3 years ago, what I sold has been replaced in value magnified because their efforts and their succession allow the firm to grow instead of me to just take the revenue. So anytime I've taken salary out of my pocket to hire an awesome person I couldn't afford, that always added value 3 times above what they were paid in salary. When you sell part of your practice, you don't give up value, you increase the value because you have somebody who's equity invested there and they're part of the growth strategy. And so just as an example, let's say I sold 50%, over the last number of years, the firm has grown so that what I have left is worth more than what I had originally.
That's very powerful. Do you, Brian, do you have also like external consulting firm that helps you devise and implement such a strategy in terms of selling shares and how that works out in terms of a formula? Or do you actually just read some books and maybe just develop this yourself?
Well, they always say the best lawyer in the world will never hire themselves to defend themselves in court. Unfortunately, I didn't take that advice. I've drafted the agreements. I had a running start. They've been reviewed by legal counsel on the purchase, out of these 15 acquisitions, the agreements have been reviewed, and with only just minor tweaks. The agreement, if Michael can't buy into the firm with a handshake being the key to making it happen, then the agreement doesn't matter. The agreement just puts it into fine print, what the handshake solidifies. So I'm a big believer that and we've had 15 acquisitions. We had one that after 3 years, the acquisition, the person we acquired, his son wanted to come back into the business and he approached us if he could buy the company back. We literally took the agreement, changed buyer to seller and seller to buyer on the exact same agreement and sold it back to him. That's the difference of a handshake versus taking it to a legal court. So I've spoken quite a bit. I've read extensively on it. But again, just like our hiring process, when that fit is right, when it isn't right. Don't force it. And don't expect it to come to you. We prospect. We're good in this business. All of us are MDRT because we're good prospectors. But the people we should be prospecting for the most, whether you're 10 years in this business or like Derek, he's 25 years in this business. I know you're not Derek. And Logan, you're prospecting for the future of your clients. That's the biggest prospecting you should do. So start with your end in mind and visualize what you're creating, and then recruit to that strength and recruit to that succession plan.
Wow, I think that's very powerful. You just I just share with everyone. You're saying the prospect for the future of your clients, and that's really a very powerful phrase. I think that we as financial advisors, we say prospect for the clients, but then you're talking about the future of the clients. And I think that's really talking about long-term planning and thinking ahead. And then what you said about beginning with the end in mind. So yes, excellent. I just want to then maybe the last question I want to ask is that, are you looking to retire one day? If I look at a few weeks ago, when I look at Warren Buffett, he shared the Berkshire Hathaway AGM. He's in his 90s and he still enjoy his job. He's still looking strong, still like drinking like a cherry Coke, 6 cherry Cokes in an AGM. How do you feel at this stage? You feel strong. You're looking to many years of productive work, or you maybe have a different thoughts.
No, there is an end strategy here that, and I made this in one of my MDRT meetings. Andy Lord and I talked about our futures together, and my path was I wanted to work till about 48, take a few years off and do a volunteer structure, and then come back and work for another 5, and then eventually go into semi-retirement if my advice is still acceptable. Michael will say that I've already pre-retired with the amount of time that I spend with travel. But here's the beauty of what we've created and the opportunities that we have. Our firm does about 90% of our meetings just like this. Brandon runs an office in Janesville, Wisconsin, which he's physically been in twice over the last 5 years, and he's tripled the recurring revenue that firm generates. Michael does 401k meetings, retirement plan meetings all over the country in group settings. We still physically go on site, but when I went earlier in the year, we took a 3-week trip through Vietnam, the Maldives, and then Malaysia. And I worked as often as I needed to, but I never had to answer one business question back home because the people and the partners were in place to do that. Now, they still called me, we chatted, you know, a lot of it started off personal. There was always questions coming in, but retirement for me is not a destination. It's living a life in which I'm managing the stress and still fulfilling a duty. Right now, I think there's value in my knowledge transfer. We work in a very technical part of the business and in the 401k, very legally structured. It's a retirement plans. We actually do the tax preparation for those retirement plans. There's probably 4,000 or 5,000 employees total in our plans. And so I'm transferring that knowledge to Michael as it comes up. He's brilliant in what he does, but there's always that one question. And as long as I can answer that question and serve a purpose there, then I'll remain in the firm. But the most important thing that I want to do is de-risk the firm from bad advice, first of all, and de-risk from a need for me to take a salary. And so as I step down in my role, the compensation will go down, and I'll regress in the ownership structure to being a first base advisor sometime in the future.
All right. First, thank you, Brian. Because of time, it's now 5 o'clock. I just want to, South African time, I want to respect everyone's time. If any of you needs to log off because you have a next appointment or engagement, you please feel free to do that. I do want to respect everyone's your appointment, but I just first want to ask the speakers here, Michael and Brian, do you still have time for another maybe 5-10 minutes chat? Maybe answering any questions? All right, thank you. All right, so for anyone who needs to log off, thank you for attending, but also to let everyone know that this meeting is being recorded. So afterwards, I will edit it and to share for everyone's benefits. We know in South Africa, we have a load shedding challenge. Some people may not be able to connect well, but it's available afterwards. So I see that there's a couple of hands up. First of all, I just want to ask Naji, if you can just speak about any, what's on your mind.
When you ask Brian the last question, I thought you're going to ask him if he's still recruiting. So maybe we'll send our CVs.
We're looking for an outfit to join us from Lebanon, actually, Naji. So
do you want an office in South Africa?
Yes. The answer
Brian,
is
yes. Kevin and all, first of all, I want to thank you for the great effort that you're doing. Really a great session. Michael, Brian here, I want to tell you what you build. This is a study case that you can teach it everywhere. Really, with the structure that you put it in your company and in your firm, this is a case study that all the countries, all the places, they need some structure. And I think this is the time. I don't know if you're ready to teach and to be a course, to give a course about what you build, because this is a great structure.
it's funny you say that. I actually, our study group created one of the gentlemen, and then the rest of us just joined this year. It's called Ultimate Advisor Coaching, and it's a low price point type of virtual presence and done on a group basis. And not to toot my horn or go through that, but to handle the logistics, the book printings and everything else. If you're interested, Najee, I can show that. But for this group here, you mentioned the 5 levels of leadership. And if Kevin, if you're willing to do some logistical, we could knock out the book in about 3 meetings. They're about an hour a piece. And I offer that because of all of the, the strong MDRT membership that and the history that we see on this call right here with Logan and Derek and Cobus and everybody else sitting here. I'm willing to offer that over a couple month period of time if we can make the schedules work.
Wow, thank you.
Wow,
That
thank
would
you.
certainly be great. Yeah. Okay. So that's another action item for me, for our team. All right. So I see that Logan, you have your hand up. Please.
Yeah. Brian, thanks again for that fantastic presentation. Unfortunately, not too many people are, let's say, fortunate enough to have family in the business. So, and they might just be a one-person operation. What would your advice be to such people?
So first of all, my business doubled when I hired my first employee, and it was a part-time employee. Hire somebody smarter than I hired somebody smarter than myself. The time freed up and the training period, again, they just kind of watch. I'm not a great trainer, but they watch and they observe by osmosis. They take in everything that they do. That first hire created the second hire, created the third hire. So to build an organization, you have to start with the foundation, as Michael talked about. You can't start with the castle until you get the foundation. And the foundation is first support staff. With support staff, you can then move to a secondary advisor that you can share. Then you can hire your second support staff. And then I used to joke, we now have diamonds that are, imagine a four-sided diamond. When I hired Leo, we had a stick. It was me, Leo, and then 2 support staff. And so I couldn't get to the diamond and 26 employees until I had the second and third and fourth employee. So you got to start somewhere, start with support staff. That frees up the time to take the second step, which is advisor staff, and then another support staff. And then not that everybody wants 25, but if you're just a one-person, succession planning is, and I've had them approach me, very, very difficult to transfer personal relationships as a succession plan.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian.
You at Logan.
Right. Anyone's got any question or comments for Brian?
Kevin, I just want to say something. I mean, Brian really is a superstar, and I would absolutely urge, you first of all, as the SA chair, to take Brian up on his idea to, have these classes on the 5 levels of leadership. I think it would be of incredible benefit to all of us. But I've been with Brian on MDRT when he was the president, etc. And I mean, his contribution to the industry, and I'm not just saying it because you're here, Brian, it has just been significant. And you've left your mark already, Brian, and I know you still will continue to do so. So thank you for giving of yourself so unselfishly.
Thank you, Logan.
Thank you. Thank you, Logan, for your comments. I just want to bring Michael back in to this discussion. So Michael, we've heard Brian, your dad, talked about succession planning and how it's worked out over the years. And we'd like to hear from your perspective. You're the you're one of the successors, and you're one of the partners in this in the business. And from your side, how do you work your way up, and how do you develop this together with Brian?
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to what Logan was talking about. Brandon and I were actually not Brian's primary succession plan. He had already kind of moved forward with working with Leo, his other business partner, and then Brandon and I didn't join the firm until much later. And so my experience in it has been that I had the same opportunities as Brian mentioned that everybody else in the firm has. And so just can you clarify on your question? Well, I kind of got lost in what where I was going with that. Can you clarify?
Succession.
Yeah, just saying about your journey as being like being part of the succession, and what have you learned along the way, and how do you see this succession planning? And do you think right now you have arrived, or the as a firm in terms of from the succession planning point of view is now settled, or there's still things to be built on?
Yeah, I don't know that it's ever going to be settled. I think it's a constantly evolving process, you know, as I talked about. So, you know, Leo was Brian's initial succession plan. Brandon started working for the firm. I started working for the firm a year later. And so things have always changed. And when Brandon and I first started, we weren't necessarily coming into it with the mindset that we were going to be partners right away. I know that when I first started, I was thinking that I was going to be more of a technical role and back office and less client facing. But as many of you have seen over your career so far, everything is constantly changing, constantly evolving, and we have to adapt. And, you know, being on meetings like this and the other MDRT discussions, that's one thing that I've gotten a lot of the meetings that I've been on is you learn how to adapt, and you get to hear stories about how other people have changed along the way. So yeah, Kevin, I don't think it's settled. I don't think we have a straight plan going forward, just like the plans that we make for our clients are never static. It's always going to be updated and changing. So as you grow and as life situations happen, you just need to be able to adapt to them. And that's kind of what we're expecting to continue to do.
I'll just leave with one final thought on top of there. You know, again, allow for adaptation, but there's one overriding goal: delivering quality, first-class retirement planning advice to our retirement plan clients. So people who are participants in the corporate plans have the same opportunity for a retirement plan. And I would just say real quickly, Elon Musk, his overriding goal is he wants to create society on Mars. And he backs that into, he creates an electric car, he creates a solar company, he creates a battery company. Everything that he's created feeds his overriding goal. And I think that's where we get confused. We think our overriding goal is to sell a policy today. That ends when you sell the policy. But what's the overriding goal that your North Star that you drive towards? And that's where, you know, we've been very good at defining that, and the building becomes easy when you have the end in mind.
Right. I think that time is up, and I'd like to really thank Brian and Michael, and I see that Najee's left, but I'd really like to thank our international speakers for really sharing your wisdom, your insights, and experience. It's really special for us. And I think that what I'll do afterwards, I will actually play back and listen again and again, just until certain messages sinking. And I saw there's some messages saying about the golden nuggets. So thanks very much. And I will certainly take up the offer to have subsequent MDRT South Africa meetings with Brian and Michael. I think it's very positive. And for everyone that's attended the session, and thank you very much. And I hope this is of value to all of you. And let's continue to take MDRT forward, whether it's around the world or in South Africa. Thank you, and good day to you in the States, and good evening to all of you in South Africa and Africa. Bye.
Well done, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Najee.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you, Flora and Tom, for assisting, and Subhash. Yeah. Bye, Logan and
Bye-bye.
Mr. Mokadi. I
Thank
would
you.
I would certainly want to do a meeting with you. There's a lot I think that we can also learn from your experience. Okay, all right.